Namaskar, Happy New Year listeners. A warm welcome to the first edition of World News in Indian Perspective on All India Radio. This is Renu Kataria and with me is Nishit Kumar bringing glimpses of the major developments of the day from across the globe. Over the next half an hour, we shall bring you the latest from the world of politics, economy, sports, entertainment and more. The headlines. Omicron dampens global New Year celebrations. India supplies 500,000 COVID Covaxin doses to Afghanistan as humanitarian assistance. Registration for COVID vaccination of children between 15 and 18 years on Covert portal begins in India. Total vaccination in the country surpasses 1.45 billion mark. New Delhi calls for early release and repatriation of its civilian prisoners, missing defense personnel and fishermen from Pakistan's custody. Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen urges China to resolve their differences peacefully. Nepal government decides to ease restrictions imposed on entry into the country following detection of new variant. And Germany closes 3 of its 6 nuclear power plants as part of phasing out of nuclear energy and turning towards renewables. As India marches towards administering 150 crore vaccine doses against COVID-19, news about the new corona variant is a cause for concern. In this situation, we appeal to our listeners to get fully vaccinated at the earliest and help others get vaccinated. Please continue to follow these 3 simple steps to stay safe. Wear a face mask, maintain 2 gaz ki duri for social distancing and focus on hand and face hygiene. For any COVID-related information and guidance, contact the national helpline numbers 011-2397-8046 and 1075. And now the news in detail. The Omicron coronavirus variant dampened New Year festivities around much of the world, with Paris cancelling its fireworks show, London relegating it to television, and New York City scaling down its famous ball drop celebrations in Times Square. The illuminated ball made of waterford crystal panels slid down its pole at the midnight hour in Times Square, but only 15,000 spectators were allowed into the official viewing area instead of the usual 58,000. A year ago, the newly available vaccine offered hope that the COVID-19 pandemic may be under control by the start of 2022. Instead, the sudden arrival of Omicron has brought a surge in coronavirus cases across the globe. Worldwide infections hit a record high over the past 7-day period, with an average of just over 1 million cases detected a day between December 24th and 30th, by some 100,000 on the previous peak posted on Wednesday, according to Reuters data. Deaths, however, have not risen in kind, bringing hope the new variant is less lethal. Elsewhere around the globe, events were scaled back or cancelled outright, such as the traditional fireworks over the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur. In London, where a fireworks display and light show had been cancelled in October, officials announced on Friday the spectacle would come to life on the television screen as Big Ben rang in the new year for the first time since 2017 following a restoration. In the wake of encouraging data, Cape Town abruptly lifted a curfew just in time for the new year after South Africa became the first country to declare its Omicron wave had crested and with no huge surge in deaths. South Africa had first raised the alarm about the new fast-spreading coronavirus variant racing around the world. Hours earlier, the Australian city of Sydney also feted the new year with something like full swagger as spectacular fireworks glittered in the harbour above the Opera House. In Asia, celebrations were mostly abridged or cancelled. India also celebrated New Year amid concern over COVID. Restrictions were clamped across the country on New Year celebrations. While festivities have been completely banned in states like Delhi and Karnataka, others have brought in strict restrictions such as curfews to control the spread of the virus. Indian tourists, however, celebrated New Year with beach parties in Goa.
Bangladesh welcomed the arrival of the new year with several restrictions being imposed in the capital city Dhaka and other places in view of the corona pandemic and security threat. Most of the people welcomed the new year on the rooftops or near some place around their homes as public gatherings were banned by the police from the evening of December 31st. India has supplied the next batch of humanitarian assistance consisting of 5 lakh doses of COVID vaccine Covaxin to Afghanistan on Saturday. It was handed over to Indira Gandhi Hospital, Kabul. The Ministry of External Affairs has said that another batch of additional 500,000 doses will be supplied in the coming weeks. India has committed to provide humanitarian assistance to Afghan people consisting of food grains, 10 lakh doses of COVID vaccine and essential life-saving drugs. Earlier last month, India delivered 1.6 tons of medical assistance to Afghanistan through World Health Organization. The minister said that in the coming weeks, India would be undertaking supply of wheat and the remaining medical assistance. It said that India is in touch with the UN agencies and others for finalizing the modalities for transportation in this regard.
In India, children between 15 and 18 years can register online on the Covert portal from today to receive Covaxin shots from Monday. To register on the Covert site, children can use their school IDs or Aadhaar cards. 6 to 7 crore children in the 15 to 18 age bracket will be eligible to receive Covaxin. Healthcare and frontline workers and citizens aged 60 and above with comorbidities will be able to access vaccination for the precaution dose through their existing Covert account from the 10th of the month. The Covert system will send an SMS to eligible persons for availing the precaution dose when it becomes due. India's COVID vaccination coverage has crossed 1.45 billion mark on Saturday. Out of the total vaccination, more than 845 million vaccine doses have been administered as first dose, while over 608 million doses have been administered as second dose. As part of the nationwide vaccination drive, the centre is supporting the states and union territories by providing them COVID vaccines free of cost.
India and Pakistan on Saturday exchanged the lists of civilian prisoners and fishermen in their custody. This is in keeping with the provisions of the 2008 agreement under which such lists are exchanged every year on the 1st of January and the 1st of July. India handed over lists of 282 Pakistan civilian prisoners and 73 fishermen in India's custody to Pakistan. Pakistan has shared lists of 51 civilian prisoners and 577 fishermen in its custody who are Indians or are believed to be Indians. India has called for early release and repatriation of civilian prisoners missing since Indian defence personnel and fishermen along with their boats from Pakistan's custody. In this context, Pakistan was asked to expedite the release and repatriation of 2 Indian civilian prisoners and 356 Indian fishermen to India whose nationality has been confirmed and conveyed to Pakistan. In addition, Pakistan has been asked to provide immediate consular access to 182 Indian fishermen and 17 civilian prisoners who are in Pakistan's custody and are believed to be Indians. India has also requested Pakistan to expedite the grant of visas to the members of the medical experts teams and facilitate their visit to Pakistan. The team would assess the mental condition of the believed to be Indian prisoners of unsound mind lodged in different jails of Pakistan. It was also proposed to organize an early visit of the Joint Judicial Committee to Pakistan. The External Affairs Ministry has said that India remains committed to addressing on priority all humanitarian matters, including those pertaining to prisoners and fishermen in each other's country. In this context, India has also urged Pakistan to expedite necessary action at its end to confirm the nationality status of 68 Pakistan prisoners, including fishermen, whose repatriation is pending for want of nationality confirmation by Pakistan. In view of the COVID-19 pandemic, Pakistan has been requested to ensure the safety, security and welfare of all Indians and believed to be Indian civil prisoners and fishermen. India and Pakistan on Saturday exchanged the list of nuclear installations and facilities covered under the agreement on the prohibition of attack against nuclear installations and facilities between India and Pakistan. The agreement provides that India and Pakistan inform each other of the nuclear installations and facilities to be covered under the agreement on the 1st of January of every calendar year. This is the 31st consecutive exchange of such lists between the two countries. The first one took place on January 1st, 1992. This is All India Radio giving you the news. For quick news updates around the clock, follow us on Twitter at AIR News Alerts.
Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen has urged China to resolve their differences peacefully. In her New Year address at the presidential office in Taipei, she said Beijing should curb the spread of military adventurism. Tsai strongly protested against China's military incursions and said these are of no benefit to the preservation of regional peace and stability. Reiterating Taiwan's position, she told that it was consistent that it will neither bow to pressure nor act rashly when it has the support. President Tai said Chinese authorities should not misjudge the situation and that they should stop the spread of military adventurism. Tai added that the use of military means is absolutely not an option for resolving the differences between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait. She warned that military clashes would deal a blow to economic stability. Further, Tai also brought up the recent arrest of people in Hong Kong in connection with an online media outlet known for its critical stance against the Hong Kong government. Tai said the pursuit of democracy and freedom is not a crime and that Taiwan's position in support of Hong Kong will not change. She made it clear that Taiwan will cherish its own hard-earned freedom and democracy even more deeply. China is mining Western social media to equip its military and police with information on foreign targets. The revelation has made in a report by Washington Post. It comes after the review of hundreds of Chinese bidding documents, contracts and company filings. This new report says that China maintains a nationwide network of data surveillance services that were developed over the past decade. These are used domestically to warn officials of political sensitive information online. The software, which targets domestic internet users and media, also collects data on foreign targets from sources such as Twitter, Facebook and other Western social media. The documents accessed by the Washington Post also show that the Chinese state media software program mines Twitter and Facebook to create a database of foreign journalists and academics. The report further reveals that a Beijing police intelligence program analyzes Western content on Hong Kong and Taiwan. It also catalogues Uyghur language content abroad. According to report, the unit was once tasked with producing a data report on how negative content relating to Beijing's senior leadership is spread on Twitter. These include profiles of individual academics, politicians and journalists. In today's edition of Hotspot, we look at the India and United States relations at present and the year ahead.
The India-US partnership has strengthened as they face mutual challenges and collaborate in areas of mutual cooperation. The year 2021 witnessed a number of high-level exchanges between Prime Minister Narendra Modi and President Joe Biden, both in person, such as in Washington, and on the sidelines of the G20 summit and virtually too. India also welcomed the high-level U.S. officials like Secretary of State Anthony Blinken, Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, Climate Change Envoy John Kerry, and Deputy Secretary of State Wendy Sherman, to name a few. Washington hosted the important 2+2 dialogue between the defense and foreign ministers of the two countries. The dialogue is a mechanism for strengthening bilateral relationship through greater integration of defense, security and intelligence apparatus. On the bilateral economic aspect, India and the US held the 12th ministerial level meeting of the India-United States Trade Policy Forum in New Delhi. Apart from enhancing bilateral economic relations, they agreed to work collaboratively and constructively in relevant multilateral trade bodies, including the World Trade Organization WTO, the G20, and the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development OECD. Officials of the two governments have been meeting in person or virtually to take forward cooperation in key areas such as counter-terrorism, defense, and the Indo-Pacific, and have helped shape the response to the situation in Afghanistan. Among the regional issues, China has emerged as a significant challenge for both nations. India and the US have bilateral relations with China that have elements of cooperation, competition, and conflict. Nonetheless, shared concerns about the dramatic rise of China and its expanding economic, political, and military engagements from Europe and Africa to Asia and the Pacific have led to a shift in the strategic realities both in New Delhi and Washington, D.C. The second issue of importance is the Indo-Pacific. The region is now a significant geopolitical strategic focal point, and India's own approach towards the Indo-Pacific is shaped by a new strategic environment coinciding with the rise of China, particularly in the Indian Ocean region and South Asia. The US is the dominant military power here and is involved with much of the defense architecture. India and the US have found increasing convergence on their strategies vis-a-vis the Indo-Pacific region. Within this ambit, India and the US have worked to increase cooperation with partners such as Japan and the Asia as also among the Quad member states. A third regional issue of convergence is their shared vision of a peaceful Afghanistan. However, India differed from the US on the issue of Washington's withdrawal plan from Afghanistan. As a country that has faced terror attacks, India's concerns rise from the continued instability in Afghanistan, leading to increased terrorist attacks in India. Among international issues, the pandemic has necessitated a global cooperative approach to addressing the health crisis. India has supplied vaccines and medical equipment to nations across the world. As they continue to administer vaccines to their citizens, the two governments have pledged to lead the global efforts to end the pandemic. India is an important partner in the UN-led COVAX program, as also the Quad initiative to fight the pandemic. India and the US, along with their partners, have also launched an infrastructure development plan for the region that will provide technical assistance and other tools for sustainable infrastructure development. Climate change has emerged as an important area of cooperation between the two nations. The two sides launched a new high-level partnership, the US-India Climate and Clean Energy Agenda 2030 Partnership, which envisages bilateral cooperation on strong actions in the current decade to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. This partnership will proceed along two main tracks: the Strategic Clean Energy Partnership and the Climate Action and Finance Mobilization Dialogue. The US joined the International Solar Alliance, an initiative at which India is at the forefront to help global transition through a solar-led approach. These are just a few bilateral, regional and global issues that have brought the two nations together in 2021.
North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has said that the faltering economy will be the national priority this year as the country faces a great life and death struggle. He was speaking at the end of a key ruling party meeting which coincides with him being in power for 10 years. Mr. Kim said increasing development and improving people's living standards was the main task. He acknowledged the harsh situation in 2021 and set an important task for making radical progress in solving the food, clothing and housing problem for the people, the official Korean Central News Agency KCNA reported. Mr. Kim said battling the pandemic was one of the main goals for the coming year. Emergency epidemic prevention work should be made a top priority in the state work. But he also said Pyongyang would continue to strengthen its defense capabilities because of an increasingly unstable military environment on the Korean peninsula. The Nepal government has decided to ease the restrictions imposed on the entry into the country in the wake of the new variant detected. Nepali cabinet in its meeting decided to allow such travellers to come into Nepal if they do not show any symptoms similar to that of COVID-19, and they would be subject to stay in a 10-day home quarantine. The travellers have to be fully vaccinated and should have a negative PCR report taken within 72 hours. Germany has shut down 3 of its 6 nuclear power plants on Friday as part of the country's phase-out of nuclear energy and turns its focus to renewables. The government decided to speed up the phasing out of the nuclear power following Japan's Fukushima reactor meltdown in 2011 when an earthquake and tsunami destroyed the coastal plant in the world's worst nuclear disaster since Chernobyl in 1986. The plant in Brockdorf in the northern state of Schleswig-Holstein Gronde in Lower Saxony and Unit C at Gundremengen and Bavaria in the south shut down late on Friday after 3.5 decades in operation. Prusen Electra, which runs the Brockdorf and Gronde plants, said in a statement on Saturday that the two had to be shut down shortly before midnight on Friday. The decommissioning process will take 2 decades and cost $1.25 billion per plant. The last 3 nuclear power plants, SR2, Emsland and Neckarwestheim 2 will be turned off by the end of 2022. The 6 nuclear power plants contributed to around 12% of the electricity production in Germany in 2021. The share of renewable energy was almost 41%, with coal generating just under 28% and gas around 15%. Germany aims to make renewables meet 80% of the power demand by 2030 by expanding wind and solar power infrastructure. The closures take place as Europe faces one of its worst ever energy crises as nuclear power is once again gaining support as it produces significantly less carbon dioxide.
In the United States, residents of Boulder County in Colorado have returned to scenes of devastation after snowfall helped extinguish the last of a raging wildfire. The fire swept through 6,000 acres in just a few hours, destroying hundreds of homes. Tens of thousands of people fled as the flames engulfed the area. The fire at its peak was driven by winds of up to 169 kilometers per hour, which caused flames to jump over highways and entire communities, local authorities told news agencies. As the snowfall has started, officials say they do not expect the fire to pose any more danger. People have started returning home to assess the damage, many facing scenes of complete destruction.
The funeral mass for South African anti-apartheid campaigner Archbishop Desmond Tutu took place at the Anglican Cathedral in Cape Town. Tutu, a Nobel Peace Prize winner who helped end the racist regime in South Africa, died last Sunday. He was 90. In his eulogy, President Cyril Ramaphosa described Tutu as the spiritual father of the new nation. Tutu had insisted there should be no lavish spending on the funeral. He wanted the cheapest available coffin. Family, friends, clergy and politicians were among those who gathered at St. George's Cathedral for Saturday's service, which had limited numbers because of coronavirus restrictions. Tutu was one of the driving forces behind the movement to end the policy of racial segregation and discrimination in South Africa from 1948 until 1991. Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina of Bangladesh on Saturday inaugurated the 26th annual Dhaka International Trade Fair. She declared the ICT products and services as the product of the year 2022. Inaugurating the month-long trade fair virtually from her official residence, Prime Minister Hasina urged the business community to explore new markets and diversify the product basket. She emphasized the need to improve the quality and standard of the existing export items. Pointing to the continued growth in exports, Prime Minister Hasina said that export has gone up from $15.66 billion in 2009 to over $45 billion in 2021. The largest trade fair of Bangladesh is being organized by the Ministry of Commerce and Export Promotion Bureau with the help of other agencies to promote export and product diversification.
A new law banning plastic packaging on most fruit and vegetables comes into effect in France from New Year's Day. Cucumbers, lemons and oranges are among the 30 varieties banned from being wrapped in plastic. Larger packs as well as chopped or processed fruit will be exempt. President Emmanuel Macron called the ban a real revolution and said it showed the country's commitment to phase out single-use plastics by 2040. More than a third of fruit and vegetable products in France are thought to be sold in plastic wrapping. The government officials believe that the ban could prevent 1 billion items of single-use plastics being used every year. From 2021, the country banned plastic straws, cups and cutlery as well as polystyrene takeaway boxes. In 2022, public spaces will be forced to provide water fountains to reduce the use of plastic bottles. Publications will have to be shipped without plastic wrapping, and fast food restaurants will no longer be able to offer free plastic toys. Several other European countries have announced similar bans in recent months as they pursue commitments made at the recent COP26 conference in Glasgow. In a latest report of a study on climate change in Nepal, it has been revealed that area and volume of glaciers in the Himalayan region is declining. Transparency International Nepal, in collaboration with other organizations, conducted the research, and the report was made public on Friday. The researchers looked into the impact of climate change on water resources in Nepal's mountainous region and in the lower coastal regions. The latest study has revealed the findings of an earlier study report that the area of glaciers in Nepal decreased by about 24% from 1977 to 2010. It also revealed that the height of the Emya and Lhotseu glaciers in the Khumbu region of Nepal decreased from 1970 to 2007. The risk of flooding caused by glacial busting has also increased. The study has also brought out the fact that 35 glaciers have burst from the Nepal mountain range so far.
Information and Broadcasting Ministry has said that more than 185 YouTube channels of All India Radio and Doordarshan with audience spanning across more than 190 countries have together registered more than 1 billion views last year. The minister said the watch time for the entire duration of 2021 sums up a stupendous figure of 94 million hours. Prasar Bharati's app News on AIR clocked a listenership of over 214 million this year. The popularity of this app has increased to more than 190 countries and 790 cities across the globe. In 2021, popularity of Doordarshan gained new heights as DD channels across the country together clocked viewership of more than 6 billion. India's Education Minister Dharmendra Pradhan launched the nationwide 100-day reading campaign Padhe Bharat on Saturday. The campaign is in alignment with the National Education Policy NEP 2020, which emphasizes on promotion of joyful reading culture for children by ensuring availability of age-appropriate reading books for children in the mother tongue, regional and local languages. The reading campaign aims to have participation of all stakeholders at the national and state level, including children, teachers, parents, community and educational administrators. In a tweet, Mr. Pradhan said reading books is a healthy habit and a wonderful way to develop cognitive, language and social skills. He said, inspired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's call to citizens to read books regularly, he is committed to cultivate a lifetime habit of book reading. Spanish tennis player Rafal Nadal arrived at Melbourne ahead of the ATP 250 event scheduled to be held in Melbourne Park from the 4th of January. The event shares the venue with the upcoming Australian Open 2022, the season-opening Grand Slam tournament. Meanwhile, the Australian Open took to their official Twitter handle on Saturday and shared glimpses of Nadal preparing for his ATP 250 fixture, which will be the 35-year-old's first ATP tour since the City Open in Washington, D.C. in August 2021.
Pope Francis ushered in the new year Saturday by praising the skills women bring to promoting peace in the world, and he equated violence against women to an offense against God. The Roman Catholic Church marks January 1st as a day dedicated to world peace, and a late morning mass in Vatican City's St. Peter's Basilica paid tribute to the Virgin Mary's special place in the faith as the Mother of Jesus. Francis urged everyone to step up efforts to promote mothers and to protect women. Now let us take a look at the major developments around the world as reported in the foreign press. The Guardian reports that Pope calls for end to violence against women in New Year message. Globe and the Mail reports that US and Russia face deep differences ahead of Ukraine talks in Geneva. South China Morning Post notes new U.S. defense law calls for stronger Taiwan ties, but U.S. President Joe Biden must walk a tightrope. A quick look at the headlines once again. Omicron dampens global New Year celebrations. India supplies 500,000 Covaxin doses to Afghanistan as humanitarian assistance. Registration for COVID vaccination of children between 15 and 18 years on Covert portal begins in India. Total vaccination in the country surpasses 1.45 billion mark. New Delhi calls for early release and repatriation of its civilian prisoners, missing defense personnel and fishermen from Pakistan's custody. Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen urges China to resolve their differences peacefully. And in this new year, All India Radio wishes everyone joy, prosperity and success. Wishing everyone a happy new year. Mahatma Gandhi's favourite bhajan Vaishnav Jan by artists from New Zealand.